Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video we're going to be going through Iron Docks dungeon here for Season 4, giving some tips and tricks for Paladins and some melee, information and some boss information in general as well. Goal to help out any kind of ret Paladins, or Paladins I guess in general. There's no specific ret abilities, I suppose, and help them out with these Season 4 dungeons that are old that are coming back here. So we're hitting up Iron Docks here, and we'll go through and talk about it. Skip ahead to relevant parts here. Okay, so see, am I going in the trash here? Yep. Okay, so again, just like on the other one, just like on Grimrail, you can go into these at a lower level and just kind of figure out what's going on if you're really confused about something. Most of the mechanics you can trigger without doing damage and killing everything. But yeah, so this first room is just really easy trash. There are some ranged things, right, which can be a little bit annoying because they might not get grouped up or whatever. But it's a very easy room. Your group very well may pull like tons of trash in this room. It's a very good place to do it, just like a huge first pull as well. And then like when you're done with all this trash, again, it's pretty simple trash to be straightforward. You get to the first boss, and this first boss does have some interesting mechanics in it. Mostly, it's just in a lot of older dungeons, the main thing, especially warlords, was don't stand in front of the boss as a DPS or healer, and do not stand in swirlies on the ground. Right? It was pretty simple, especially as a melee DPS. Do not stand in front of things. Do not stand in things. So here you see they added a visual tip for the arrows, so you can dodge these arrows pretty easily and not get caught on fire there. So you can go ahead and dodge those. That's one major thing you want to do. Obviously, the closer you stay to the boss, and if your melee stack and run in a circle, you can keep uptime up on him, which is really good. And then the other thing you're going to want to do is not stand in front of these things, because there's going to be stuff that can hit you that way as well. So you never want to be in front of the wolf, like when he's charging. You don't necessarily want to be in front of the boss. You just kind of want to, stay behind him as much as you can and don't stand in fire. The only other thing, and then we'll skip ahead to see, is that he has this reckless provocation. Any damage you do during this is going to, I think it's technically a fear, but it fears you in place. It feels really bad. The fire could also kill you at that point. So it's a pretty dastardly thing. I believe even a consecrate tick can do it. So for this boss, especially at a higher key, it might be worth it just to never even pop down your consecration, just so you don't have to worry about that. As soon as this goes up, you're going to want to not touch him. And I do have it pop up here at some point, so we'll get a look at that. So I kill the wolf, and now we get his abilities. Now, normally what's going to happen is you're going to be fighting them separately as well. It won't just be that you kill the wolf. There we go. There's reckless provocation. Okay, so it's just a big red circle. During this, you do not want to do any damage to him whatsoever. All right, so after you finish off the first boss, pretty easy, you're going to go to this next part, what's worth talking about, which is these 3 giant iron stars, or I don't know what they technically are called, and you're going to fire these and kill a bunch of trash this way. You're likely going to pull these 2 big Ogron things into this next pack here, so don't do damage to them if that's what your tank's doing. If your tank's running ahead, what he's doing is he's setting up to kill these with the balls. It's worth knowing how to use these balls, because there are 3 of them. It does suck if one person has to do all 3 of them, but one person can do all 3 of them. It's not a big deal. And you kind of line it up with this yellow arrow and shoot it, and you just do, a ton of damage to stuff. This first one, you're going to want to try to kill everything on the left. The right one, you want to kill everything on the right. And I believe the one in the middle, you can actually shoot it to the back and kill that guy in the back as well. The big Ogron in the back. With his pat. And I think a strategy that'll start to develop here is that the tank will just pull everything together, or can misdirect to the tank and everything like that, and then just have them all standing in the same spot and then kill them that way. So that's what I think will probably end up happening there. So you shoot your iron stars, whatever they're called, kills all this trash preferably, and then we'll head to this little gauntlet section here, which there's only a little bit to mention on this part. All right, so during this gauntlet section here, there's going to be a cannon barrage coming from the cannon over there. That's where the final boss is. There's a cannon barrage type ability during that as well. And it's going to come here, and you want to line of sight it behind these boxes. It's going to be to your left when you start the gauntlet. So you want to be up and to the left of the boxes, right? That's going to stop the damage from coming out. You'll see this cannon barrage happen here shortly. There it is. So this will kill you pretty quickly. The higher the key, the higher it's going to kill you. And so you want to avoid this. Now, as a paladin, your group might run ahead at a time where you can't make it. be prepared to bop or bubble, okay? Because this thing will kill you. That's the only kind of Paladin cheese as far as that goes. It's just be prepared to bop or bubble. The trash itself here is pretty easy to deal with. It's tight spaces. It's very much like much like the train, much like Grimwell Depot. There's a bop, for an example there. Maybe it can hit you through the bop. It might actually be magic damage there. I just saw my character move a little bit, so it might only be bubble that can save you here. But the trash here is just a lot of stuff on the ground. You're in a tight space because you're avoiding the cannon barrage, and there's stuff on the ground. So just be careful where you're standing. Stand behind things, but don't stand in things. Just a generally good rule here. And then we'll hit up to this next boss. This is like a trio of bosses here. It's actually pretty simple once you know what to do. It's just one of those things where people don't know what to do. So you have three things. You have a caster, a warrior, and an engineer. The engineer is going to just randomly shoot people, going to randomly AoE people, and it's going to put a bomb on the ground that has an AoE explosion, and it's going to have traps on the ground that'll stun you as well. And you do not want to hit these traps at all. I believe they stun you in place, and then you can get hit by the bomb by being stunned. You can get hit by a frontal by being stunned. So you want to kind of get out of these traps, and we'll see that when I pull them. The big guy, the warrior, he does a frontal thing. He does like a blade storm type thing as well. So you want to make sure you're never in front of him. He might aim towards you or whatever. You don't want to be anywhere in front of this guy. You just let him go past you. Don't get hit by that. Don't get slashed on his way through. Just stand behind him, DPS him when it's time to DPS him. But the main one is the caster on the left. This one is the main ability that you can interrupt the Blood Bolt or something like that. But the main ability that the caster has is a shield that she's going to put on the lowest health of her allies, her or the other two. And there will be a shield on. It's like just a red shield. And you do not want to do damage when that's happening. So let's say all three are grouped. While that shield's up, you do not want to AoE. Do not spam your Divine Storm during that time. You just want to single target one of them and let the shield expires on its own. Otherwise, if you pop the shield, it does a ton of healing to their entire group or whatever, and it just makes it really, really awful to deal with. I believe you can kill through popping shields, and that would happen back in the day, but it was very annoying to do so. So it's not necessarily something you ever want to do. We'll go ahead and get into the poll so we can see some of these abilities here as they happen. Taunt poll here. Let's see. And there, okay. That's good. All right. So there, you just saw him charge forward and do a big blast thing there. And now putting down traps all around a player. It targets a player. So it's very good for ranged players. This isn't for paladins, but the ranged players to be out. There's a stun. I was stunned inside the robot thing. That could have done big damage to me, perhaps there. You can't just use freedom for these. These are like stun traps, not like snare traps, I suppose. So, okay, here comes the sphere. So the sphere is casted on herself. So at this point, you would not want to do damage to her at all because it would pop and heal them. So that's that. There's more traps. Again, range can bait these away. Blood bolts. And then again, just the frontals by the warrior guy. So the tank is mostly trying to manage the warrior guy to not do frontals to your group. So you have to stay cognizant of that as well. And don't pop the shield. Don't stand in traps. It is pretty simple. You just have to know what those mechanics are. We'll come in here to this next group of trash. The next group of trash, and the trash in this whole dungeon is pretty easy. Do not stand in front of the big, I don't even know what they are. They're not elephants, but the big guys, swift hoofs or whatever the heck they are. Yeah, what are those things? I don't even know what they are. Cleft hoof. That's what they are from the ground. Cleft hoofs. Do not stand in front of the big cleft hoofs when they charge. The sniper guys will disengage away. They're a bit annoying. They'll slow you with like a chain or something like that. Or it might be spikes on the ground that slow you. So get out of the spikes on the ground. The Rylaks are going to shoot fire. Don't stand in the fire. Pretty simple stuff. Again, if you just stand behind and dodge, you're pretty much safe on that trash overall. Then we'll get to the third boss. And this third boss is the first one where paladins are actually extremely useful. It's very, very nice here for one of these abilities. And it's the Feeding Frenzy where Oshir is going to target a person, jump on them, and maul them until a certain amount of damage breaks them out. It's been speculated that damage scales up based on the key level, but that just might be that the health is higher. But I'm not sure on that. That's just speculation that I've heard. But either way, you can do damage while you're being mauled. But if you're a paladin, you have the opportunity here to break it with your bubble, and you can also break out an ally with your bop. So on high keys, this could be really, really important as far as having immunities to pop while this happens. Other classes can like pre-immune it or something like that, like pre-turtle it. That way they don't take damage. But for paladins, we can literally just press it real quick after it happens, and it's not a big deal. And we'll show you that as it goes. Other than that, he's going to open up some cages. You AoE down the wolves. You can cleave down the Rylak, but you want to make sure that dies as well. Do not stack up during the Rylak part of it. It doesn't like an acid spit that I believe splashes, acid splash. So you do want to watch out for that as well. So let's go ahead and get to where I pull it just so you can see the abilities really quick. All right, so here's Oshir, and he'll go through his ability. So this is the frontal. You just don't stand in that. We've seen this kind of mechanic already. Just don't stand in front of these frontals that are very, very telegraphed. Pretty simple. And he's going to do a jump to a random cage. He can jump to different cages around the room. A lot of running, perhaps. This happens to be the Rylak. Not much to see here. Like I said, don't stack with all the other melee. You want to kill it, though. And then we should see the Feeding Frenzy here pretty soon. I don't want to skip ahead and miss it. There it is. So I can just bop that off real quick. So that makes Paladins extremely useful for this. Obviously, if I had a team of people, I would bubble there. And then the next one that comes out, I would bop. Even if it's myself, right, and my forbearance is gone, I could just bop myself so you could immune to yourself. Now, when doing that, you might not be able to do, depending on how long the fight lasts, you might not be able to do the cheese for this part that Paladins can do. And Paladins aren't the only ones that can do it. But it is pretty nice, but you do have to coordinate it with your tank. So let's go ahead and get these bosses spawned. Probably open up all those things. Okay, so there's Skolak, the big guy. There's the main warrior guy, Bladestorming type guy, Koromar, something like that. And there's the guy who sits in the cannon and shoots. The guy who sits in the cannon and shoots will come out later. I end up having to kill Koromar to get him to come out, but he'll come out during the fight as well. And there's different ways people are dealing with him. I don't know what like the meta way will be. But generally speaking, you like try to mostly focus down Koromar. He's like the more annoying one. He's going to be jumping around on heroic leaping on your allies, and then doing Bladestorm as well. So as a rep paladin, you don't want to be in the Bladestorm, obviously. Get out of that. It does a lot of damage. And yeah, so you'll slowly kill these three things as Skolak annoyingly punts you to the back of the room occasionally. And you deal with that. So there's not a ton to do here mechanically, except for the big ability. And it's just kind of a long, annoying fight when it comes to that. So let's go ahead and start the fight here. Let's see if Karamar's doing his leaps here. So those could be like hitting your teammates or whatever. I've seen him leap quite far before as well. So there's a firing on me from the cannon. That's happening before he comes out. He can just shoot at you from his cannon. He's very easy to deal with out of his cannon. Okay, so then he knocks you back. So what you can do here, let's see if I do it here on this first one. So I waited for him to cast Barrage, and I pop my bubble, and you can make it up here with one thing of Divine Steed. You can make it up here. Now, there is an issue with this. If the tank is not with you, he will immediately melee you. So he will kill you. So if you're going to do this kind of thing, the tank needs to know that you're going to do it. Because with some unsure groups, some safe groups, you might have people like slowly moving up box to box to box. So you go to the first box, second box, third box, then to the boss. That's like the safe way to do it. But you can just run there as a paladin, any paladin, Brett, Holy, Prot, whatever. You can just run all the way up to him with your bubble and get him to break it immediately. It's just a little bit of cheese. It makes it go a little bit faster. Obviously, there's other classes that can do similar things, like Monk by setting their teleport and stuff like that. There's other things you can do. Now, the way you normally handle the mechanic, if you're not doing that, is you try to get behind these boxes. You can usually make it to this first box here. You might take a tick of damage or something instead of going to the back box. But another thing I've seen is that this guy is going to sometimes be tanked while this barrage is going on, and people are just single targeting him down. I don't necessarily think that that's the best way to handle this because he doesn't really do much. So I would just probably pull in the Skolak and kill him personally. But if you're just in case your team does that, be aware that your tank might be in the back tanking him somewhere, and you're killing him that way. I guess it's just like a super safe way to do it. I doubt that's going to be anything in the meta or anything like that, because again, he doesn't do anything. He just kind of hits you, so not a big deal. So yeah, as soon as you get close to him or whatever, he'll stop his cannon barraging, and then you can go ahead and kill him, finish him off. So the only real cheese here is if you can execute that bubble horse, and like your tank knows that that's going to happen, so they have a way to taunt him like immediately. He needs to at least be like in taunt range and like able to be kind of close to him, right? So that's like the biggest thing. We might even have to be in this ring. I'm not sure what Skolok's pull distance is, how far he can go. So that's interesting to think about as well. So definitely some huge cheese on Oshir. A little bit of a trick here that I used to do back in the day. Back in Warlords, is run up to him with bubble. So that's an interesting thing you can try to do as well. That's it for this one. Probably have upper and lower Kara and Mechagon videos coming out as well on these. And as always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel. Helps me out so much. And other than that, everybody, have a good one.